Yes. So, two important things that I said: support and approval. Support. Uh, that basically says how much political strength that faction has within your. I keep wanting to say country,
You can, you
empire.
can, you can. I'm not
Uh,
American.
well, fair enough. Uh,
You lost your train of thought.
hmm, okay, interesting. No, I was reading a little bit. I didn't see that about the full citizenship thing, but whatever.
What?
Support, like I said, that's just how much political power they have in your country. That's, I think, related to how many
37% for scientists on mine.
yeah,
It's the highest one.
actually screened by pops. Okay, so basically, the that determines how much of your is determined by how many of your population is that faction or independent or another faction.
Mhm.
Size is literally just how many people. I believe that every pop has one ethos. Let me check that.
I suppressed a faction. I actually suppressed all these factions. I hated it.
See, I do not think anyone should ever suppress a faction
Unless it just pisses you
unless
off.
unless that faction has a high support and is something that you do not want in your peoples. So let's say if I was, well, I'm going to be an authoritarian in this run. So if I see that a egalitarian faction has a lot of support, I'm going to manage the faction, suppress the faction. Now, an important thing uh, is approval. As I said earlier,
Mhm.
approval is basically how happy people are with how happy the people of that faction are with how you're running your empire. How you basically manage approval is all through the issues list. It's different for every faction, and it's different based on the situation. So, example, First Strike Legion, I had for a while. It had no issues, period, until I met you. Now it has issues. So its first issues is, and mind you, issues aren't necessarily bad in this case.
Unless it's
It's
out of
just that
control, out of
things,
your control.
yes, they're issues, basically things they care about. So, example, just for the First Strike Legion, aggressive diplomacy, failing to allow for offensive war will displease the First Striker Legion. So, if you went to your policies and your war philosophy was, say, defensive wars, this faction would be pissed about that.
Yep.
Um,
And it depends. And since we're both warmongers, we do unrestricted wars,
yes,
which we'll go
yes,
through
of course.
policies after we finish with this.
Uh-huh. And then there's conquest. Conquering alien planets will please the First Strike Legion for a time. This is one of the interesting issues
And also,
because
it's one of those that repeatable.
yes, exactly. They don't give you negative
No, they don't.
approval. They don't actually hate it if you don't. It's more so
It's
if
just
you
like
do it,
they
they'll
want
like
it.
you
They
more.
just like that.
Yes. So local rivalry is an issue where they're saying, "Hey, you need a rival." So like they're pissed off that I don't have a rival, and I'm not going to rival you.
That's
So that's an
alright.
issue they're going to have for a minute.
Of course,
Um,
we're just busy progressing through this.
yes. Again, imperial hegemony is the same thing. If you have it, great. If you don't, eh.
And these are just ours. There's a wholly different section of them if you
Oh
choose.
yes. Now, if you go to your other ones, they can get long lists.
Like my scientist
But
one here, we
basically,
have no purge,
yes.
all refugees, new contact, and proactive contact protocols. Is one of mine.
Oh, that's upsetting.
What happened for you?
Uh, it's just that they're pissed off that I don't have indirect xenology, but I also really,
Hate it.
really like enlightening. I believe it's called, which is
Enlightenment?
basically it's basic covert infiltration. I believe it's called, where basically you have a primitive civilization, you take over their governments and roll out the red carpet for them to just join your solar empire by giving them technology. One of the other things you can do is give them just the technology so they can become their own empire. But indirect xenology basically says you can't do that, and I don't like that. So they're probably that's probably going to be an outstanding issue for that faction because I'm not willing to change that.
And just this one, since it's just recording reasons, I'm going to have to cut it because I'm going to cut some parts of it out, but also have to keep it mandated because I don't have much space for the videos, and these are gigabit videos. So If something's maybe cut off, if you see there, don't blame me. It's just how I set this up because it keeps it from going without maxing my computer out.
Oh yes, extranational authority.
But let me plug in my drive so then after I'm finished this first recession, I'll put in a drive, then we continue right away.
Awesome.
Let me.
One thing for me to mention, by the way, my authoritarian coalition, the authoritarian ethos,
Yes.
extranational authority is one of those issues that most people often don't have satisfied, which is why it's actually not a pressing issue. It's not something that'll give them malice. But as a feudal kingdom, I'm going to have a lot of vassals, so that's
Okay.
going to be something that's going to make them very happy.
We'll get to that point once we see an empire, or unless you conquer one.
Oh, I'm going to be conquering.
I know
You
you will
can
be.
bet
right.
I'm gonna
basically
be
saying
conquering.
I'm basically saying for future reference reasons, so we don't have to go wasted and we have to repeat ourselves.
This is fair. This is fair.
But yeah, we'll get to that point.
I get ahead of myself often.
All right, so that's enough for the factions. Look at the policies. We'll play it since we'll let this play in the background. Since we just basically got enough pausing time. Policies.
The Policies tab covers
Policies are important. They're
Okay.
basically determining how you run your country, whatever you want to
And
say.
if you want to appease the right faction.
And that's your main way that you stop pissing off your faction.
And also
I
pissing off
use
other
that-
empires.
Other empires, it is accurate, but I found that it's pretty easy to get around it if you know how.
Yeah, back in the day, though, you had to go nuts with this.
Fair. I also stand by it that if you're changing your policies to appease other empires, you're not really playing for your
Own empire.
empire. You're
But
playing.
it
for
really
them.
depends on your playing style. For me, I'm good. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
not prohibit slavery because I'm not in that.
Yeah. See, I was looking at that one. So here's a quick statement that I gotta make here. In this game, there are a lot of sketchy things that can happen, especially in specifically slavery. That doesn't mean that we condone slavery, obviously.
No, we do not.
Normally
We do
found.
not.
I need to remember what faction likes slavery. I believe it's
I
the
think-
xenophobe.
No, someone I was thinking it was the liberalist or someone like that's another. It's
No.
materialism.
I thought it was the authoritarians, but I guess not.
No, not anymore. Not anymore.
Huh. Okay. In that case,
System
I'm
survey
going to
complete.
actually, yeah, I'm gonna ban slavery because that's fair.
Because like I said back in the day, these determine the please your empire. If you're like someone's like very close to you and has a firepower, yes, you will please your policies so you don't get fucking invaded.
Here, empire-wide edicts.
Yeah.
practices that can-
My standpoint is that if you're weak enough to be invaded, then you deserve it. But that's also
Yeah, so
kind of rude.
Yeah, but also each person is his own.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna adjust this so we're expansionist, we're belligerent, cooperative, isolationist. I'm gonna keep it.
So,
expansionist.
your diplomatic stance is basically how you treat other countries in the passive tense, if that makes sense.
And back in the day, this was nothing. This was actually nothing.
I honestly don't remember when they would have implemented that. Oh, you are joking, you little bastards.
And of course, with the war
Ugh.
philosophies, we have unrestricted wars, which is basically go where you want. Liberation, we basically gotta stop other empires' aggression, if I remember correctly. And defense
Well,
war, which is basically.
I can explain these more in depth if you'd like. I'll start actually with the diplomatic stance. Basically, these change how you
progress.
react to other countries. Like I said, expansionists, it lets you build a lot faster and a lot quicker, but it also makes it so that if you're rubbing up against someone, quite literally, they'll take more offense to it. Isolationists basically it's exactly what you say. Most of these, nearly all of these diplomatic stances are exactly what they sound like. Purification means that you would want to purify all other aliens. Supremacist means that you want to be the best, you want to be the supreme, etc., etc. It's an important thing to keep in mind and something that you can easily change. Of course, regarding your RP, there might be one that you're going to have forever.
Spaceport
I'm
under
probably
attack.
going to have
Uh-oh.
belligerent as
Okay,
soon as I find
someone-
someone that I
Situation
actually
log
don't like.
Updated.
An
Oh, boy.
asteroid's about to hit it. Oh, boy.
Oh yes, kill that. Important. Random event, random asteroids coming at your planet. You have to bring over a ship to blow it up. So, war philosophies to continue. This is literally just how restricted are you in declaring wars?
So I had to take that off. I was busy. I had to put that into motion.
Um, let's see. Back to what I was saying.
You think we're talking about war philosophy?
Yes, the war philosophy. So unrestricted wars. This means that you can go to war however the bloody hell you'd like. If you have claims on other systems, then you can go to war to get those claims. If you want to vassalize other systems, you can totally do that. However you want to do your thing, of course, with keeping your government type in mind. You had a little bit off with liberation wars. Liberation wars are basically you can go to
complete.
war on other people if they do not have the same ethos or government type as you.
Yeah, that's my opinion, yes.
Yes, so liberation wars is kind of a very unique thing in that
System survey complete.
you force other empires to change. I have found that the game likes to cheese it though, because they just re-embrace the factions that they already had, which makes them go back to those ethos usually. But it does change the government type.
Indeed.
So
next, we got the philosophies. Defense,
yes.
defense is basically what it basically means.
It's exactly what it sounds like. You cannot declare war on other people. You have to be declared on. That's it.
Orbital bombardment. This was different back
now.
then.
System survey
Now,
complete.
important note about defensive wars. That's a really big caveat here. You can claim and take other systems from enemies, but you
they have to
can't
declare on war.
declare. You have to declare on them. It's kind of like a wow, you attacked me, well, I'm taking back or taking stuff as payment. You know, but orbital bombardment. It's exactly what it sounds like. So what you can do is you can.
Sure. I'm sorry, I was getting food.
I understand. Grilled cheese is a fun thing.
Seriously, one of these days when you're not nuts with the COVID stuff.
Whoa, what is this? The manifesti.
Oh, nice. You should come up here, man. If you're not not
Perhaps.
fanatic on your thing.
Perhaps. The protests on Anthria have ceased almost suddenly as they began. About their origins, about many whispers called the group the Manifesti. Enigmatic Collective. Ah! This is my rebel faction. Okay, so explain this more when you get yours, but a rebel faction is basically what you were referring to before: the pirates, the zealots, basically anyone who are going to just spawn inside of your country and fuck things up.
Basically.
Yes, basically.
We're talking about the policies. Orbital bombardment, just basically how much damage you want to do. Back in the day, there was 3 types. It was light, medium, and heavy, which just basically destroy their stuff. That's no longer
more now.
Then we have native interference.
Hold
which
that
I
thought.
just got.
Hold that thought. Regarding orbital bombardment, basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. You take your navy and you bombard a planet. Why you would do that is if you don't have an army strong enough to invade it, you eventually just destroy their armies, destroy their buildings, destroy. It messes up their planet, but it makes it easier to capture. That is, of course, purely a situational thing.
And
the
also
important
for war exhaust.
Of course, for war exhaustion as well.
Which
Now, the
we'll go in
important
depth
thing
later
here
down the line.
is the orbital bombardment stance drastically changes how much damage it does at a time, especially regarding selective and indiscriminate, really drastically changes how quickly buildings are destroyed and how quickly population is destroyed. Indiscriminate means you are destroying everything badly, but it's not attempting to literally blow the world up. That is something added with the DLC, the Armageddon DLC, and by extension, the Synthetic Dawn DLC. I have a empire that I really like having fun with called Skynet. Yes, that is Skynet as in Terminators, which is literally just you go to a planet, you use the Armageddon orbital bombardment, you sit your navy on them, and eventually it makes it a tomb world, killing everything, destroying all the buildings, killing all the population.
There was a mod I used. There was like Halo inspired like glassing the world. I used that mod. It was just for like means of like just simple. It means of like simple things. I'm finally better. I finally found a place I can reach into your spiral. Finally, frick's sake. Sorry.
Okay, on to native interference.
Which is
Native
basic-
interference.
Which is basically primitive things you want to conquer or research. Aliens.
The important aliens, Jim. The important thing here is once you find a primitive, which I will definitely be taking Dongar, so do not touch it, or I will go to war.
I found one anyways, which is
Fair enough.
Which is down the long line.
So let's see here. Actually, let me look at these
active
people.
study, which determines how they want to
Mage.
invade the planet or research them or help them get to the space age. Where you're
So
at.
yes, when you actually build a observation post, which is necessary to interact with the primitive civilization, basically you have a couple options. You can do passive study, which is just literally looking from a telescope onto the planet. That has very little repercussions. Doesn't have amazing amount of science you gain from it, but it's worth it. It I think gives you 8 science. The next thing would be active study. Now this is what America thinks happened in the 40s, 50s, etc. This is when people.
current times.
I don't really hear about it much
as-
current times, but
not really, but you get the idea.
I understand. Yeah, exactly. This is basically where you're abducting cows. You're actually looking at going onto the planet and studying their systems. That is
Well, basically, what it is.
obviously going to have repercussions if you are caught. It'll be random events. Sometimes your people might suddenly find themselves caught by local authorities and you have to break them out, or perhaps someone notices the crop circles that you're making in order to study the environment and might start telling the local news and might start a panic over aliens, et cetera, et cetera. That is only accessible if you have the correct policy. I believe passive study literally only lets you do passive studying, which is that first one. Very little you can do with it. Active study, I believe you can still.
It's just
You can still do the. It raises you so that you're able to, I believe, do enlightenment, which I'll get into in a second. I'm sorry, not enlightenment, indoctrination.
No, it's
believe-
enlightenment. I don't have the other one.
I will explain in a bit because they are different. Active. So you can do the active study, which is the better one that gives you more experience. Or I'm sorry, research but at higher risk. And then there's indoctrination, which basically you are slowly trying to convince the planet's population of your ethics. So you will try to show the planet, hey, you should be militaristic. Hey, authoritarianism is the right way, etc. Of course, you are being so much more direct that it's almost impossible to not have negative side effects of this.
But
But-
also down the line, we'll give a brief summary. Basically, if you don't bother with them, they will eventually become empires, either within your
So-
system or not.
Yes. So passing ages continue to grow. I currently am looking at a steam age.
Oh, it's Industrial Revolution.
So just after, I believe, the Industrial Revolution,
No,
I
that
think.
is during the time. That's during the.
Oh no, this is right before it. Okay, never mind. So this is like literally just the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, which means that they're pretty quickly going to rush into their industrial age, which is about the 20s to, I'm sorry,
Simple.
the 1915 to like 40s. But
mine when I have is Stone Age.
Stone Age, that just means
They just begin. They just begin.
they're Neanderthals. They don't have very much technology. They're just beginning, and you can't. This is an important one. You cannot do certain actions to them.
You can still invade them, but it's just pain in the ass.
You can still invade them, and they will become part of your population. But there are downsides to invading them, which I'll get to in a minute. So there's indoctrination. Like I said, you just influence them directly, telling them, "Hey, be this ethos." Over time, I believe it should eventually just copy your ethos. Other than that, after that, you can. That is what you can do using active study. Once you get to unrestricted study, that's where the fun things happen, in my opinion.
It's just basically what you want. Do what you want.
You do what you want. It's fun.
But it
You can give.
But displeases factions.
It does displease the which faction was that? The military?
No. It's probably something with xenophile or spiritualism.
Yeah, it's the xenophile. The xenophiles faction really sympathizes with the primitives, so they don't want you to do anything to them. I kind of disagree with that, but I also understand why what they're trying to do.
There's-
Regardless, once you have unrestricted, you can do two really important things. One, you can technologically enhance them, which
which
basically
makes them
means you
quicker and
just
becomes your puppets or
you
part of
just
your empire.
give them your technology. You tell them, hey, here is how you use space flight.
And
They will love you for it.
and they,
Not
and, they,
necessarily.
and they'll be into the space age. Then you can conquer them again.
They will
anyways.
they will immediately become space age, and they will love you. They will have an incredibly high opinion of you.
And then they
But
can either
they
be
are their own empire.
which
So
is the
if
downside
you
of that.
offered, that is the, it's arguable if it's a downside. So what that does is you can just have them vassalized immediately because usually they love you so much that they'll take the vassalization. Otherwise, if you just wanted to conquer them, they will no longer have the negative effects of invading a primitive civilization, which is
which we'll explain when we get to native enlightenment in
yes.
enlightenment.
So that just is like I said. You give them technology, they become their own empire.
And then become your other problem later.
And then they might become a problem later. Who knows? Usually, they don't survive very long, in my experience.
And that's why
'cause
that's why some rare thing happens. They ask you to become part of your empire or a empire.
Yeah, they can. Yes. The last thing is my absolute favorite one. I forget the actual name of it. Basically, the idea of the last one is you are just being a sneaky.
Basically.
You are infiltrating their society. You are coup d'etat-ing their governments. You are controlling them and getting ready, but they are not aware. This is one of the very, very invasive ones that have a lot of risk and a lot of potential to fail, or have and not so much fail but cause problems. But if it succeeds, snap of the fingers, it's done. They are now a planet in your
favor.
empire. They will just roll. I think this is literally a verbatim to the actual text, but they roll out the red carpet, allowing you to come in, basically ready and happy and willing to join your society because they are used to it. Now, the important thing also about that is that you cannot do that straight away. You actually need specific technologies. I believe it's gene modification, if I recall.
Which I remember seeing that back in the early days, but I don't know if that's
yes,
gone
you
or
will
not.
see that eventually. Basically, you are literally changing how your people, your agents look to make it look like these aliens. I find that interesting, but regardless, you're basically literally disguising them as them. You're putting them in meat puppet suits and making them dance around like humans, so that they can get into places of power.
Basically.
That's
basically
and like I said,
basically it.
They become part of your.
Enlightenment.
I love it.
Yeah. Now for native enlightenment space.
I always just call it.
Go
Continue.
or I go.
You can.
Enlightenment's basically
Because I'm trying.
invading or not. That's basically it. Probably more, but we don't want to go in
So,
depth with
native-
that more. We already got a big sum of it from primitive language.
I believe
spaces.
Native Enlightenment. Oh yeah, I think Native Enlightenment. There's another policy that we might see eventually, but a Native Enlightenment's basically just you.
Invading,
Whether or
that's
not you can do the technological ascendant, once you can give whether or not you can give them tech or not, whether or not you can actually use the gene seeding thing to grab them into your empire. There's another one somewhere, and I can't remember what it's called, or maybe that is actually it. I'm not exactly sure. Where basically, eventually, you are going to be able to native uplifting policy. That's what it is. Where you're basically going to be able to look at animals and make them sentient or sapient.
Okay.
It's one of the I think later technologies, but you can actually find unless they took it out because I haven't seen them in a minute. But you can actually take basically, if you know the game Spore, basically the animal age, the second age, where they're just animals. They don't have a culture. They don't have buildings. They don't have tools. But you can give them it, and you can make them intelligent. It's very cool.
As for enlightenment resettlements, is basically moving your population around. Land appropriation.
Forcibly
Land
moving them around.
appropriation is basically shows whether newly acquired pennies should have some of their land opportunity non-suited species. I'm guessing that's involved with population for some reason. First contact protocol.
First contact protocol, I think we already talked about.
We already saw that. Borders basically open or close other empires. Economic policy basically says in their thing. It's basically what it says in their cover over their names, so you don't need to worry about that.
Yes.
What
Economic policy, just to make it super quick.
Yeah.
It just gives you a focus on
What do you
consumer
want?
goods, alloys, or just easy fix. I always just
trade
leave it mixed.
policy
Continue.
is what you could do get when we down the line. Robotic workers is basically allow droids to roam around your empire or not. Population controls is basically
I'm actually
population control is basically you can move this stuff around, which I'm going to
Oh,
do.
you don't have refugees yet. Okay.
No, refugees are welcome, which is basically by its name.
Yep.
And purge is basically you want to be an asshole
Refugees
or
just
not.
meaning whenever. A purge basically means do you want to get rid of specific pops of specific species. Displacement basically means that you're kicking out of their homes and deporting them.
And also,
Allowed
but
means
also
that you
means
can
if you
do a
don't
lot
do
of.
it properly, you will fuck your empire, which I happen to meet. Because I purged.
I've never had the problem because I usually don't.
I
use
purged a
purge.
plan that was main connection of my
I know
empire.
how.
That I lost it.
Yeah. Allowed purges get more into one of the sketchier aspects. This happens a lot more with authoritarians, fanatic purifiers,
Yeah,
machine
people
empires,
as you progress.
where you basically can chop people. You can literally murder people to get rid of them. It fixes the problem of refugees going to other places, and also if you are a machine empire, you can liquidate them into energy, which is really fun to do.
which it'll be on his side when we're down the line. If you want to meet that, or when you meet
Soylent
that.
Green. Yes,
Alrighty.
I will not be doing that. I actually the only thing I'm allowing, or I'm basically the state owns you as a person is my lore, but they don't think anything. They don't think certain people should be subjected to that. They think all people should equally be controlled by the state. So that's why I have slavery prohibited, because
we both.
there isn't really a point to
I'm
that.
doing it because I don't want
everyone
nothing
is-
involved with it, and also appeases people. That's my reason. why I
Yes,
did it.
I'm not. Like I said, I'm really not scared of using slavery in the game. But like I said earlier, it's not a reflection of me. I absolutely abhor the idea of slavery in real life. But for RP, I can get a little morally gray.
We
Um,
are even in
so
general.
I'm-
We are both dictators in RP wise, no matter what.
Yes, I can RP a lot of stuff.
I know
But,
you can. To me, I like
It is a
everything
fun
under
thing
control.
to. I have done a few interesting runs where I had very little control over what my people did, and it was surprisingly fun. But yeah, slavery
it-
purges are the two that are prohibited. Everything else is allowed, pretty much.
And we should cut it here for this
You-
session, for this first recording session.
A lot of lore dumping. God.
But it helps us explain the fundamentals. I'll eventually have to cut this up, which you may see or may not. Last time I transferred some of the files to you, but that's when I go to the cafe, which is probably Thursday, because I want to get out of the house. And if I was sending you the video so you can see what you want to edit or take a piece if you want to, because I'm just new to that. But this could be the end of this session
Give me
here,
once.
because this is
I'm
big.
going to save in case something silly happens to your
Yeah,
thing.
save this session.
Save the session, so in case something stupid happens, we can go right back to this next session.
Which we'll be doing right away after this.
All
'cause
right.
I want to do a short one though, because we'll do this tomorrow if you have the time.
Possibly, maybe. We'll
Yeah.
see later.
But yeah, we'll end this first session here. We'll continue it, but probably be short for the next one. Then we'll see where it goes. Again, I am the player Phoenix. This is my friend Alex, and we are here to help you and have a good time in Stellaris. Bye.
Yep, I'm Castle Oblivion. Bye.